Hey guys, Caddy Bass here. Today we're going to show you how to rig up some live worms, and then we'll also go over rigging up plastic worms. I'm going to show you the whole rig that you should have on your pole, from bobber to what kind of weight. She's going to show you the live worm. I'm going to show you the plastic worm. So, alright guys, so here's the rig that you're going to use for your little, when you're fishing for like bluegill, little sunfish like that. You got a bobber there, and you got a little split shot weight. You can see it right there. Not sure what the weight that is, but you can pick up a variety pack of split shot weights like this at Walmart or any tackle place. And then what we're using is a size 6 hook to put the worm on. Katie here is going to show you how to rig up the worm so that it gives you the best possibility of catching the fish and reusing your worm that whole time. That's crazy. Alright.
Alright guys, you're going to start with the thinnest part of the worm that you can find, and you're going to stick your hook through it, when he cooperates of course, and then you're going to hook him up through. I keep a hold of the hook because it makes it easier to do this portion. I actually learned this from a veteran fisher and oops, that can happen too when they're a little on the skinny side. So what I do is I just try and go back and do the same system. A little lively this morning. So as you can tell, this worm is not wanting to cooperate too much with it wanting to fall apart on my hook. So we're going to try and go up a little bit higher on the hook today. Nope, he is just falling apart to pieces. I have those kind of days. Nope, he's not going to work.
Now this could be partly due to the fact that we're trying to raise these in a little earthworm farm that we created, and I actually got it off of the design off of a YouTube video that I found. I'll show you all that later. So I'm not quite sure how healthy they are right now. It's still an experiment in progress.
Whoop.
But earthworms do tend to break apart as you're trying to hook them up.
Generally, I haven't had this much trouble before with hooking a worm. This one just decided that today, since I'm doing the tutorial, that it will break apart. So we're going to go back to my old system. Be wary that they will wiggle around no matter how many times you stick them.
And you want that. You want them to wiggle on your hook a little bit. That's what entices the fish. It targets that predatory instinct that the fish have. They see it wiggling and they want to attack it.
So generally, you see what I'm doing, I'm continuously wrapping it over, kind of like sewing, I guess. So generally you want to have as much of the worm on here so that the fish does not take off with it. I do push it up a little bit on the hook to ensure that. So hopefully, even with as much of it breaking apart today, I can catch 3 or 4 at least fish on this. So let's go fishing and see what we can catch.
All right, one thing we forgot to mention while over by the truck while rigging this up was you want to adjust the length of your bobber and your hook to adjust to the size or the depth of the water that you're fishing in. You want the worm to be suspended in the water column a little bit. So what we've got rigged up right here should be fine where we're fishing, but you want the bobber to help keep the hook off the bottom of the lake. There are other fishing techniques which with earthworms and night crawlers and all that you can catch catfish. That'll be a tutorial for another video where you would actually have the worm sitting on the bottom, but here we're going for sunfish, bluegill, stuff like that. So
alright y'all, so I prefer to use one of the push button rods because that's just how I roll. I'm used to it. I can cast a lot farther than your generic one that uses the flip over. So we're going to see what I can catch today.
Today this pond is pretty clear. We can actually see some bluegill swimming along the bank here. Don't know if you can see them in the video.
I generally cast a little too far, so I reel it in for a little bit, try not to get too close to the bank, and then I sit and wait. The idea is that if you feel a small bite, you reel it in a little bit, but you wait until that bobber goes down completely to pop it real quick and then start reeling, because you'll be able to tell when you've got something on you. And also, I'm not your usual fisher. I have gloves on. That's because I'm new to fishing, so I'm still trying to get used to holding the fish when I pull them off the hook.
And there's no exact science to fishing. Each area, region of the world, the fish are gonna, while it might be the same species of fish, they're gonna bite to different things. So you just got to figure out kind of what is in your area. We're kind of teaching you what bites around here in Palm Bay, Florida, and how to rig up some worms. Now she still might be a little far out and actually might need to reel in a little bit more. You'd rather cast a little farther out than too close, because you can always reel into the position that you want.
And the water is pretty clear today, so clear that I can actually see my worm underneath down from the bottom. So it doesn't always happen that way.
I can see a fish down there. He's checking out her bait right now. But you want to watch your bobber, because pretty much no matter where you're at, water clarity can get kind of murky, and it's really going to be that bobber that's going to tell you when you really need to start trying to set the hook and reel them in.
Oh yeah, I see him now.
There's a little bass down there checking out her bait too, so she might actually get a bass out of this if they're interested, but nothing really seems to be too interested in her bait right now. They come up and they're checking it.
It's been known to happen. That's the thing about using live bait, is you have to be patient. It's a little bit different than those that fish with a lure, such as Steven, because he's in constant motion. Me, it's you have to sit and wait.
Sit and wait.
And sometimes if I sit long enough without getting a nibble, I will reel in and retoss, especially if I happen to see something.
Looks like they might be going after it a little bit. The bobber not moving too much, but now, usually in this pond, we actually get at least nibbles a little faster than this. They're kind of skittish, it seems, today. They keep checking out her worm, but they're not really wanting to bite it. If we have to, we'll go to we'll reposition to try and use a different spot where we catch these fish quite often. And that's one thing about fishing in a pond and all that. If you're not catching it in one spot, don't stick to that one spot. Try move around the edges of the pond. Sometimes just even in a different pond, they might have a little bit of a different predatory attitude. All right, so Katie's still over there fishing. They haven't really been biting. They keep coming up and looking at her worm, but nothing's really biting. So I'm going to show you how to rig up a plastic worm for lure fishing. Now this is great for bass and stuff. It's a bottom. There's multiple ways to fish with a plastic worm. What I'm going to teach you and show you how to rig up is for bottom. You're going to let it sink to the bottom. You're going to twitch it a little bit and reel it in slowly. Alright, so what I'm using here is a little paddle tail worm. It's about 7 inches. I'm using most kits that you come with, that you can buy to start out with, come out with these hooks. These are specifically designed for rigging up the worm this way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you. So we're using that kind of hook. We're using a little 6 to 7 inch paddle tail worm. And I'm going to be using, I think it's about a ½ ounce to an ounce bullet weight. Alright, so what you want to do is you want to slide this, and you want to slide this bullet weight here through the line, or the line through the bullet weight, and I like to do it usually twice. It kind of keeps it from sliding too much, but you want a little play with it so you can adjust it and it's not going to yank too hard on your line when it gets stuck, because you're going to want to slide this down to the tip of the worm like this once it's on the hook. So we're going to show you how to hook up that worm and how to rig this up. Through this bullet weight here, you're going to go, the narrow end wants to face up towards your pole, so you come through like this. Alright, and like I said, I like to loop it in like twice. So I come through and I pull the line back through like this, and you'll notice how it plays a little bit. Alright, so I'm going to loop it like that. Alright, next is we're going to take the hook. And we're going to use the knot that we taught you, or we showed you the other day. Alright, so I'm going to come up through the eyelet. I'm going to twist the line 7 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And try not to get it caught on the end of the eyelet, which it wants to do. Alright, so you're going to come through that line, that hole again. Bring it through. Oop. Try not to lose it. Through like that. Alright, cinch it down. You see we got a nice little hook, a nice little knot there. Alright, and I keep a pair of scissors, or you can keep wire cutters, something like that, in your tackle box so that you can cut this line. I find scissors are kind of universal. They cut monofilament, they cut fluorocarbon, they cut braided, all the same. I found that when you use wire cutters like you use in your toolbox, they don't really want to cut braided line very well. It just kind of folds up inside the wire cutters because it's a fabric. So I put a pair of scissors in here and it made it a lot easier. If you like to use wire leaders, which eventually we'll go over that too, for fish with a little sharper teeth, you'll want to definitely have the wire cutters in here. Alright, so we're going to go over the worm. You see the notches here on the worm. You want to come in from the nose. You notice how, well, first let's start out with this. Notice how it's got a flat and it's got the rigid. Alright, the flat part wants to be on the bottom. Alright, you want this to face up. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to rig it here. You want to come in the nose here, and you want to come out about the second notch, right about there. Alright, see how that is? Alright, so you can cinch him all the way up here, and you actually want to cover your eyelet and your knot a little bit with the end of the worm, just like that. Alright, you're going to rotate him around, spin him around. They'll actually spin on the hook, and you want to judge, because you want this worm, when it's on the hook properly, to sit kind of flat like this. So you want to squinch him up a little bit and come back down. Alright, now the hook should be sitting fairly close. I didn't do it right that time. It's just a tad outside. You want to sit it, see right where my fingertip is where the tip of the hook is. Alright, So when the bass comes up, they're going to bite the worm, and you're going to set this hook. But the advantage of this is now I can drag this along the weeds, and it's not going to get caught up in the weeds because the hook is hid. All right, so notice how that it's sitting straight now. Your eyelet is kind of hidden in there, and the hook's hidden in here, and it's right there at the tip. All I would have to do is set the hook a little bit, and the bass is going to get hooked, but it's not going to get hooked up on the weeds. All right, so your next step is you want to take this bullet weight, and you want to bring it all the way down to the nose of the worm like that. All right, so that's one less thing that gets caught up. What that does is it streamlines everything as well, so it will glide through the weeds as well. All right, so that is our setup. What I'm using here, and I learned this by reading and watching videos. I'm trying not to get hooked up in her line. Hang on a minute. She set me up for failure here by setting her fishing pole so close to mine. Alright, so what I'm using here is a 7-foot medium to heavy action rod. Bring the camera over here, honey. Alright, and how you'll be able to tell that is it has it all written on here. See, 7-foot, medium to heavy casting. It'll give you what lure size that it's optimum for and all that. I'm using a little bait caster here. I just picked this one up at Walmart. I really don't remember the gear ratio for it. Sorry. It's a 6 to 1, it looks like. All right, so what we're going to use is we're going to just do this. I'll teach you. I'll put up a video later on how to learn with a bait caster. It takes a while. I've been practicing for 2 years with it now, and I still get a little backlash with it, but I'm still learning. I stopped fishing for a little bit, so I had to relearn the technique a little bit again. All right, so we're going to just cast out here a little bit. I'm going to let the worm sink to the bottom. You can kind of see it with your line. All right, line went slack, so it's at the bottom. All right, and you want to just get a little tension onto that worm. All right, you're going to let it sit there for a little bit. All right, there's no guarantee I'm going to catch anything right now. It still may take a bit. Nothing was biting her worm or live worms here at this point. So, but the technique that I'm going to show you, it can be used, and it does catch fish. I caught one the other day. So, what you want to do is let it sit, and you're going to twitch it a little bit. Just give it like 1 or 2 little twitches like this, and then let the worm sit.
Please note, it's a little late in the morning. It's a little after 10, a little bit later than we intended to be out here. But you know how it is on a Friday. So
you just want to take your time with this kind of lure. Now I'll show you some swim baits later. It actually might be in this video. I've got one already rigged up on another pole, so I might show you here in a little bit. But this one you gotta take it slow. You gotta just let it sit, twitch it every now and then. And believe me, when a fish hits it, you'll know. They'll swallow it, and then you gotta drop down and set the hook.
sorry people, love bugs.
Now we've heard from a guy that fishes around here all the time. He's caught 5-6 pound bass right in this area. But he's an older gentleman, been fishing a lot longer than I have. So, and he's fished with a couple of the pros. So he knows a little more techniques than I do. I'm just teaching you some of the basics.
Not sure this was mentioned earlier, but we'll say it again if it was. This is Fred Pope Park off Malabar Road in South Palm Bay. It's southern Brevard County. It's a nice little park that you can do a lot of different things, sports. There's even a big field area for airplanes, and of course a bunch of ponds for fishing.
I showed you the worm that I put on there. It was a black and yellow worm, or fluorescent tail to the worm, yellow tail. There are different colored worms, and you just kind of got to try in the different areas of water. I've gotten a bite flash of a fish. Fish usually have a good number of bright characteristics to them. And if we catch a bluegill, we'll show you the color to them. Alright. Just going to recast out there. And a thing to look for bass, when you're trying to fish for bass, is they like structures, down logs. Where we're fishing, there's a pipe that runs all the way up along here. That's what the two buoys out there are representing. The bass like to hide under there. They're ambush predators. So they'll sit there and they'll wait for small fish to come up, and then they'll grab them as they come by. Bass like to hide it near culvert pipes, like the one over there. They'll sit over there near that because they can come up and get the fish from there. And the little fish will travel in between the ponds. If you're from the northern states and you come down here to fish in Florida, something you want to keep an eye out here in the southern states, we have water moccasins, alligators. Just keep an eye out for those. I'm pretty comfortable here. I haven't seen water moccasins around here. Doesn't mean they're not here, I just haven't seen them. I know there's about a 4 or 5 foot gator that lives in this pond. I've never had any issues with them, but you just want to keep your eye out for stuff like that. Definitely watch your footing while fishing. If you're new to fishing, as you can see down here, a lot of the bank is soft, mucky mud, and it will, you can easily roll your ankle in this stuff.
Hey y'all, quick reminder, make sure that you're drinking that water because dehydration is no joke and it's gonna go sour on a great fishing trip. So please make sure that you're drinking that water. I like to use my reusable one because it helps me track the ounces here on how much water I'm drinking. But you can always go with just a regular water bottle, but please, please, please make sure you are picking up that trash. Thanks.
All right, so we're at the small pond here. It links up to that pond through that culvert right there that you saw us fishing in. This is on the other end of that pond. And this is just a small pond that it links up to. There are good sized bass in here, and I've seen bluegill, I've seen small bass in here. We've caught some small bass out of here. Caught about a half a pounder before. Nothing big, but I've seen the bigger ones in here. And we'll see if she can catch anything with the worm lure.
I've had luck here before, so we'll see if they're biting this morning.
They may not be biting this morning. It's pretty warm out already. Down here in Florida already this morning. So one's taking a look. And she's got a fish biting.
But it could also be a bunch of small ones that will take a nibble out of them.
Fish on. Oh! It came loose.
Whoops.
But you'll notice, yeah, it bit, but she still got her worm. And that's the benefit of this technique of hooking the worm, is that the worm stays on pretty good.
Sometimes you may need to rehook when it becomes loose.
So they are biting in this little pond here, which is fortunate. They were not wanting to bite over in the other pond. And I don't know if you can see them down in there, but there's some good size bluegills swimming around here.
We're going to try and see if I can hit in the same spot I just was. Oh, not like that, but.
Fish on! And the first fish of the day.
And you'll notice, if you look very closely at him, guess who is outside the fish?
The worm is outside the fish.
All right, now, I said before that I prefer the gloves. These guys, they don't bother me too much. When you're going to remove them, come down and grab this eyelet.
I got the fishing pole.
Now, I know it's going to be a little weird because you're thinking, what about this worm? Don't worry about the worm. So then you're going to come in like this over top of them, and you're going to grab the sides. That way, it makes it easier to remove this hook. You got to put a little force behind it, and look at that.
See him real quick, hon?
Yeah.
I'll show him something. You notice right along here, he's got some spines, and yep, he slipped.
But that's the important part of knowing.
But you'll notice he's got some spines, and that's why you want to grab him the way we did, as otherwise you'll get stuck. And we're going to drop him down here and just let him go. And you see he swims off just like that.
And the beautiful part of that is that, guess what? That worm's still on. I can try and catch another one.
All right. And just like that, she just caught another one. That was less than a minute. That was probably 30 seconds. She threw it out there, and this fish hit it right away. And you can tell it's a different one. He's slightly bigger.
He's got a little bit of an orange spot on him.
Looks like he might have been attacked, possibly by a turtle at some point. You can see the spot right there. So we're going to just take him off the hook and let him go.
You notice he's using that same technique because this one had its top fin sticking up pretty good.
And just like that, I took him off the hook. Super easy. All right, guys, so
it wasn't such a good day fishing for Steven. I got lucky with 2. I didn't do much fishing myself today, more trying to get the camera, hopefully get some fish for Steven, maybe next time. But if you liked the video, go ahead and like and subscribe.
If you have any suggestions for us to do with fishing or even kayaking areas down here in Central Florida, put it in the comments, and we'll try and do it. Part of the reason I didn't have much luck is I think during this time of year and time of day in Florida, it gets really hot, so the fish like to go down low, and they kind of limit their activity to save energy, and they really start biting early in the morning. Just as the sun rises, and then around here about 4 or 5 o'clock as the sun starts to set. So one of these days we'll come back out here. Unfortunately, we don't have time to do that today, but we'll get a video up of us coming out here around those times and see what we can do. So
see what we can show you that Fred Pope Park has to offer.
So till next time.